A very warm welcome to Barcelona and to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, which is, about 40 minutes drive north of Barcelona city centre, for the first visit in a long, long time for the European Le Mans Series to Spain. Thank you for joining us. It's Johnny Palmer and Graham Goodwin to take you through this qualifying session. Yes, you have to go back to 2009 when it was called the Le Mans Series to find the last visit of this championship to this part of Europe, and it's been a long, long wait since then. Of course, we had LMP1s in those days. It was the opening round of the 2009 Le Mans Series. But something rather special as well arranged for later today, because for the first time in its modern history at least, the European Le Mans Series is going to be racing into the night time, because with sunset timetabled this evening for 9:20, the race will still have an hour and 10 minutes to go at that point. We start at 6:30 tonight and race all the way through till 10:30. Something rather special therefore on the menu for the visit to Spain, and certainly a very busy day for you and I, Graham Goodwin.
It certainly is, Johnny Palmer. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, as the cars are wheeled out into what is growing sunshine. It's been blisteringly hot here since we arrived here mid-week, and it is going to continue to get warmer through the day and into next week, when we've got, of course, the FIWC cars here for the prologue. That's less important today, though, than this qualifying session and that race. It is going to look spectacular. I know you were out there in the grandstands watching yesterday evening, Johnny. I was certainly in the press room watching, and it was bewitching stuff as the dusk kind of fell. Colours on the cars, absolutely beautiful. Pretty dark circuit out there, and it does look pretty special. Looking forward to that enormously in this kind of sort of a new era for ACO Rules Racing, where the race organisers are just looking to mix it up a little bit. Difference in race formats, difference in race lengths in the WEC, and here an absolutely packed grid again for what I know an awful lot of people, seasoned observers of endurance racing, are continuing to describe as one of, if not the best endurance racing packages in the world right now. 41 cars we have on the entry, the best, biggest top-class prototype entry of any series anywhere in the world, supported by some really good LMP3 teams and a very good grid indeed of GTE cars, and a grid, by the way, I can tell you, which is only going to grow next year, according to not just rumours but reports I'm hearing from within the racing industry around Europe. GTE it is for the European Le Mans Series Project 1. This is the team from Germany, the world's most successful one-make Porsche team, and newly crowned as both Le Mans and FIWC champions. They are expanding their remit to include 3 cars, 1 in the LMS, 2 in the FIWC for the coming 2019-2020 season, and we're expecting to see more of them. I'm sure too, Johnny, we're going to see more of this name, Luzic Racing. New additions to the European Le Mans Series this season, with this car in the ELMS, in GTE, and a GT3 car that looks remarkably similar, because it is, in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Of course, under the umbrella of Marta Ferrari and his F Corsa effort, but those cars have been beautifully presented from the very start of the season and have been right in the mix.
Remember, there'll be success ballast that we have to think about this weekend as well, which is new for 2019. That's based on the previous 2 results that we have had in the ELMS. So forget Le Mans, that's not part of the championship. But we had rounds at Paul Ricard and at Monza a month later. Christian Ried and Riccardo Pera, together with Matteo Cairoli, top the championship then in the GTE category in their Porsche, and they lead by just a couple of points. Alessandro Pierguidi, Nicholas Nielsen and Fabien Lever, and they've had a cracking start to the year. And Graham Goodwin's already mentioned the 71 Ferrari that we caught a glimpse of, 51 Ferrari rather, that we caught a glimpse of a moment or two ago. Duncan Cameron, Matt Griffin, Aaron Scott's number 55 Ferrari is run by Spirit of Race. Probably likely to be Matt Griffin in that car to qualify it. This is 3 doses, by the way, of qualifying. First of all, for the GTEs, they get 10 minutes. We then get about 5 minutes of downtime before the LMP3s get a crack at it. And always a fascinating session, that, with 15 LMP3s unleashed onto the Barcelona asphalt, and then 18 LMP2s for their 10 minutes of the session. But these times disappear so quickly, bearing in mind it takes you the best part of a couple of minutes to do your outlap, Graham.
Absolutely, cars already on track. Luzic Racing will see Alessandro Pierguidi, the previous year's World Drivers' Champion in the WEC, will be at the wheel of the 51 car. It is indeed Matteo Griffoni, the world's fastest Irish Italian in the 55 Spirit of Race car. Team Project One has Porsche factory man Jörg Bergmeister aboard the 56 Porsche 911 RSR. Andrea Piccini in the Kessel Racing number 60 car. JMW Motorsport still carrying the Art Car livery, Andy Blackmore's livery from the Le Mans 24 Hours, with a couple of tweaks. We'll talk about that when we get the chance. Jeff Siegel aboard the 66 car. That team receiving their second place trophy from Le Mans here yesterday. Christian Reed will be at the wheel of the number 77 car, not the car that started the race weekend, I'm afraid. More news on that when we see you on screen. EB Motors is in the hands of Marco Frezza, number 80 Porsche, and then Michel Gatting is aboard the number 83 car. That's this car, and again the 83 and the 60 Kessel cars carrying their stunning liveries that debuted at the Le Mans 24 Hours. Beautiful in the sunshine, this field, and some spectacular cars to look at, to listen to, and to savour, particularly with those liveries. This, though, Johnny Palmer, is the number 77 Dempsey Proton Porsche, but that's not the Porsche that started the race weekend.
No, with dramas earlier on, of course, and the 77. I mean, they've had a fair share of bad luck, have Proton, over the years. I remember, was it the start of last year where there was a chassis that was written off during the prologue at Ricard, and they had to source a new chassis heading into the opening round of the season, and it's not been a great start to the weekend for this 77 either. You wouldn't be able to tell because it's been stickered up beautifully, but to be honest, Graham, you'll have to tell me the full story about this, having read a little bit about it, but you were probably here when the incident happened.
I was. It was Ricardo Pera had an incident which damaged the left rear corner of the initial ELMS car to the point where not repairable here at the circuit. Luckily, the team, running by the way just one car, the 88 car, not having raced at Mons, not entered here for Barcelona, of course also staying on for that WEC prologue. Their WEC cars were on the truck very rapidly. One of those wasn't on the truck anymore, and bodywork panels that could be, and the re-stickering and any other changes for balance performance performed on that car in time to get this car, which is, I believe, the 77 car for WEC as well, on track for FP2. So great work from Christian Reed's plucky little team, not that little anymore, and we do have the number 77 car out for qualifying. We're already, Johnny, 2.5 minutes in, and waiting for the very first of these quick qualifying laps to be completed. Being held up there, I'm afraid, by the Porsche, the number 83 car. That won't impress Michel Gatting aboard the 83, hustling along in the 488 GTE. Mix, of course, here of Ferrari and Porsche for the 8 car grid for GTE. And first across the line and set a qualifying time was Michel Gatting, but rapidly followed through by Andrea Piccini into the 143s. 143.4 for Piccini. Jörg Bergmeister 0.15 back with a 143.6. They're the two into the 43s now until Alessandro Pierguidi aboard the Luzic racing car, and then Matt Griffin crossed the line. They're separated astoundingly by 9 thousandths of a second, both in the 143.3s, and yet another qualifying session, Johnny Palmer, with the tiniest of margins. The top 3 are separated by less than a tenth of a second.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, this is a relatively short circuit. I suppose you could argue just 4.5 kilometres, and, well, not simple in its layout because there is gradient change. There's a lot of high speed down to low speed corners as well, so you come from huge high speed on the main straight into then a technical start to the lap through 1 and 2, almost more or less 90-degree rights and lefts, and then that long lingering right-hander at turn 3. But the charge downhill into turns 7 and 8, which the 55 Ferrari is currently doing, and Matt Griffin heading into the braking area now, topping the times, but easy to get it wrong on the exit of 7 and 8 as well, and swing far too out wide to the right side of the track, and you will be leaping over one of the large yellow sausage curbs if you do that. And then through the very fast right-hander at turn 9 into then 10, which is so easy to overcook. High speed, hard braking into that left-hander, and then a very technical end to the lap, which includes the chicane at turns 14 and 15. That's exactly where the 5016 Project 1 Porsche is. Jörg Bergmeister deciding to pit, though, right behind the number 60 Ferrari, which is the Kessel machine, the dark blue with the orange stripes.
Yeah, already in, and looks like tyre changes for the number 60, the number 56, the 66, the 83, the 77. Lots of tactical stuff underway. Can tell you already, as Johnny said at the start of the broadcast, it's 10 years since we've been here with what was then the Le Mans Series, and a very different mix of cars with LMP1s and GT1s. Qualifying times have already blitzed the pole position, not of the GT2 cars, they've beat that by some 4 seconds, but already quicker than the GT1 pole-sitting Aston Martin DBR9. That's a mark of progress in GTE. The likes of Matt Griffin, Alessandro Pierguidi, Andrea Piccini, Jörg Bergmeister, Fretzer and Jeff Siegel have already beaten the time set by the Team Modena 59 GT1 Aston Martin DBR9, Antonio Garcia and Thomas Enger back then. That's astounding. In the first minutes of this qualifying session, the top 6 beat that mark.
Just totalling together the success ballast that we should probably just mention in passing. I reckon the heaviest car is the 77 machine, so not only have they basically had to rebuild that car from the ground up, but also strapped 35 kilos on board as well. The 51 Ferrari, which is the Lusic Racing entry, Alessandro Pierguidi doing the qualifying, that carries 5 kilos less, so 30 kilos for car 51. The 66 car has 15 kilos, and the 83 car still carrying the 10 kilos that it got from finishing second at Paul Ricard at the start of the year. It's based on the previous 2 results in the races of the championship, plus your championship position. And if you featured in the top 3 of any of those, then you will be carrying success ballast.
In terms of where we are in this session, it is still Matt Griffin, that 9 thousandths of a second margin. Barely worth mentioning it as a margin over Alessandro Pierguidi, but it's enough. Top 6 cars within a second, 0.835 a second separates the top 6. We've then got 2 cars that are further back, including the currently 8th place car. Michel Gatting has yet to set a flying lap because, as unusually I'm afraid in this session, has lost a lap for track limits. But Michel Gatting has, together with the rest of the field, pitted, we think, for new tyres for everybody, and rejoins the session now in dire need of setting some kind of time. 1:43.372 is the mark to beat. We've got under 2 minutes left on the clock. Of course, they can complete a lap after the checkered flag has been shown. But who is going to make the move here? Matt Griffin, I'm sure, will be very happy indeed with that time, and particularly happy to beat his Ferrari pal Alessandro Pierguidi. They of course measure themselves against each other. 56
Porsche, I think, has managed to squeeze one more lap out of it. Crossed the line with 1:40 to go, and it takes 1:43 to get round here. So actually, no, it won't, will it? It'll just fall short. But therefore, the 83 car of Michel Gatting will get the extra lap, and she will dearly need that because, as you say, all the times that Michel's posted so far have been deleted. Just 60 seconds of this opening 10-minute session to go.
And the timing screen is lighting up. We've got purple sectors galore, we've got blue sectors everywhere else, but the only car at the moment not on an improving lap is the EB Motors number 80 car back in 5th. But Piccini going quicker, Bergmeister going quicker, Siegel going quicker, Riccardo Pera going quicker, and unsurprisingly in the circumstances, Michel Gatting is going quicker as well. Quicker too for Matt Griffin. Pierguidi, though, does not improve. This is going to go to the wire again, Johnny Palmer. At the moment, Andrea Piccini looking very good here in the number 60 Kessel racing car. EP Motors, by the way, pit. They will do no better than 5th.
What a perilous position, though, for Matt Griffin to be in. 9 thousandths of a second separate his Ferrari from Alessandro Pierguidi's. Was this a moment a couple of seconds ago for the 83 car? No, I don't think it was. That was Michel Gatting actually improving, and as long as that lap stands, up to 5th position. Over the line goes to 56. It didn't squeeze another lap out of it. Jörg Bergmeister won't need another lap potentially because he's gone faster than everybody else by 1/4 of a second. 0.271, and there is the Porsche for Team Project One in provisional pole, but 3 cars behind it on the timing screen. Already the time is beaten because Andrea Piccini for Kessel Racing and the 60 car goes to the top by 17 thousandths thousandth of a second. How close do you want it?
Staggering stuff. Yet again, it delivers in qualifying. So those two cars across the line. Still to come through. Matt Griffin does not improve. He's quarter of a second back from the pole position car. We've just got the Michelle Gatting car to complete the lap. She did set a flyer, by the way, within a second of pole, by the way, for Michelle Gatting. So that's no mean feat with the pressure on. She has got around to start at least another lap. I'm not sure what Michelle can do about improving the lap time, but it will be Andrea Piccini and the number 60 car. Not at the best of seasons so far, Kessel Racing, in that 60 car. The 83 car's been on the podium, the 60's been nowhere near it, I don't think. But Piccini sets pole position, 1:43.084. It is 0.2. Someone's own lap time,
because Bergmeister's
lost his lap, hasn't he?
Deleted his final lap and his, well, at the time, pole lap. Then it was jumped back to second, but that time's completely wiped, and all of a sudden the 56 car's back down in fifth.
Michelle Gatting is improving her time on this lap and does indeed get another place. So the gap between the top 7 cars out of the 8 is 0.8 of a second in that qualifying session. Andrea Piccini and Matt Griffin will form up as an all-Ferrari front row, the 60 and the 55. It'll be an all-Ferrari second row as well, with Alessandro Pierguidi and Jeff Siegel forming 3rd and 4th place on that grid. Those 4 separated by less than 0.4 of a second. Jörg Bergmeister and Michelle Gatting will form row 3, the 56 Team Project 1 car and the 83 Kessel Racing. Ricardo Pera will be 7th, and the EB Motors car and the Hans of Marco Frezza props up the field. That was spectacular stuff in a very different way for qualifying, but the margins tiny, but could have been even tinier if Jörg Bergmeister had actually kept the car on the grey stuff.
Pretty much a second separates all 8 GTE cars then. It's 1.094 across the field, and interestingly, the heaviest cars, 51 qualifying 3rd and 77 down in 7th. That might be down to Ricardo Pera, though, doing the driving rather than Matteo Cairoli, because Pera, the silver, elected to be put into that car, presumably to gain a bit more experience. Hopefully that 60 car Ferrari's going to get in. Yes, it is. The nose looked a little bit too close to the tyres, though, as it turned right into the paddock. But
the scrutineering, it's got to go for post-session scrutineering. I think just missed the instruction there. To put those times into context, that 1:43.084, that is exactly 1.4 seconds quicker than a GT1 class Aston Martin DBR9 managed 10 years ago at this fixture, when it was still a Le Mans Series effort. And in terms of where we were, I guess the more relevant class at the time, it was 1:47.8 was the Ferrari 430, the Virgo Motorsport car at that stage, but that was Jim McWhirter's car. It was a 1:47.8, so that is what, 4.8 seconds the GTE cars have found over GT2 from 10 years ago.
I was going to say, just remind us what class that was. So that was GT2 times, and yeah, I suppose you can sort of compare the two.
Yep.
GT2 to, remember, these aren't GT3 cars, these are GTE machines, and the GT class that you find at Le Mans and in the European Le Mans Series and in the World Endurance Championship as well.
Massive differences that 10 years have actually made in terms of the technology, the motive power that we get here, the aerodynamics, and not least, of course, the tyre technology. It's an all Dunlop field in the GT class for the European Le Mans Series. Michelle Gatting will be relieved, I think, after that, but irritated that she lost the time earlier in the session. But she's home and home safely and on that grid. Car looks great in that livery, and you know something, looks even better in the carbon. It really does. That's a livery in both regards, the 60 and the 83, that really pops in the sunshine. I think it was a surprise to a lot of people who'd seen the render when we saw those liveries for the first time at the Le Mans 24 Hours, just how good it looked in daylight. And we've got some great looking cars here in the European Le Mans Series. There is the pole sitting car, though, the number 60, another pole setter, a new pole setter for the ELMS. And in this first full season effort for Kessel Racing in GTE 56 and the growing force that is Project 1 Motorsports. And 3rd on the grid after sitting provisional pole, Matt Griffin in the number 55 Spirit of Race car. Duncan Cameron's very familiar dark green and white 55 Ferrari. And we're about to go qualifying again, this time with the LMP3 cars.
Yes, so another 10 minutes appear on the clock, and the time between sessions is scheduled to be a further 10 minutes. So this session is due to start in about 4.5. And lots of cars then will to be wheeled out onto the apron at the same time into fantastic sunshine that we have at nearly 11 o'clock in the morning here at Circuit de Catalunya, and many different paint schemes, of course, that are evident on these LMP3 cars. One or two that are fairly new to get our sights upon as well. However, let's first of all catch up with what happened in the GTE category. Louise Beckett is already down there in the pits for us.
Sergio is just making himself look presentable for the interview. Very nice. Last moment is so close and competitive in that category.
It has been a fantastic battle. I'd say Andrea did an amazing job, a super lap. And we were expecting to be very competitive because the team, Kessel Racing, did as usual a fantastic job to prepare the car. And I think Andrea did show out, that he still is a really great driver. He did I think a perfect lap, and I see all the others are very, very close. We have a small gap ahead, so we are very happy, of course. We are waiting for him to celebrate this fantastic moment with all the guys, and let's see for the race today.
Did you expect so many cars to come in for tyre change?
To be honest, yes, because I think this is the right strategy, and also the temperature is helping a lot to have the tires perfectly ready in the very first lap. So we were expecting that more or less all the cars were trying to do 2 attempts. That was the right strategy for sure.
Okay, thank you. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Sergio Pianazzola, Alessandro Piccini's teammate, and Sergio, former rally driver in fact, but managed to get to Le Mans for the first time in his career this year. They achieved a 13th place finish, did co-drivers Claudio Schiavone, Pianazzola, who we just heard from, and Andrea Piccini, who takes pole position.
Is Pianazzola also the hill climber? I think he also does hill climbs, doesn't he?
There are brothers Pianazzola, because there's a Gilberto Pianazzola as well. They both raced in the World Rally Championship.
Oh, wow.
And Gilberto, far more rallying experience, in fact. But I wouldn't be surprised. There seems to be a strong connection between hill climbing in various parts of Europe and the ELMS or the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
It needs that particular breed of insanity, doesn't it?
I think you're probably right.
Absolutely right. You can see there from the local crowd and people coming in to the circuit as we look at one of the new additions to the European Le Mans Series grid here, just on the left there. Just a quick shot in the Panis Bartis crew, the bright yellow car, the Ace 1 Valorba course. We'll have a quick chat about that when we see her on screen. This is, of course, one of the new things about coming to Barcelona. We've never had LMP3 cars here before this weekend in ACO Rules Racing. So new times to be set, new marks to be set. We've already seen the Michelin Le Mans Cup cars out for their qualifying sessions just a little earlier. It's now going to be the LMS's turn, and it's a mark of the level of success we've seen since this class was introduced just in 2015. We've got 40 or so cars across the two championships, with something like 20 in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and 15 of them here of them in the ELMS. And this is going to be another automotive war without a shadow of a doubt.
It's Jens Pettersson and Mikkel Jensen who lead the championship by 10 points in the LMP3s for the Euro International squad, car number 11. But second, as I say, by a relatively tight margin, considering it's 25 points for a win, are Martin Hippert and Nigel Moore in their number 13 Inter Europol competition machine. Ultimate complete the top three in this relatively early part of the season, because we've still got 4 races to go, remember, for Jean-Baptiste Lehay, François Heriot and Mathieu Lehay for the Ultimate squad, number 17 in their traditional, very dramatic paint scheme, that metallic red, cherry red, yeah, with the white.
And I guess worthy of mention here is that split between the Ligier runners and the Norma runners, because the Normas in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, for instance, much the quicker, certainly in qualifying trim, but yet in the LMS it's 2 Ligiers that actually top the table.
True.
And the margins are not that great. We are not that long into, of course, the ELMS season. This is only race 3 of 6.
And of course, you're talking about a 4-hour race rather than single lap speed, and how good is your driver combination, how good are the team as well in turning the car around during the pit stops, because when we get to the 4-hour race, which we'll remind you is today at 6:30 tonight, these cars are likely to do, well, a minimum of 3 pit stops during that race, 2 of which are timed, i.e. you cannot go quicker than the timed pit stop, and we'll make sure we've got all the details for you later on during the race. The last stop that you make, which can incidentally be the first or the middle stop, doesn't have to be the last one, can be as quick as you like, but those 2 mandatory pit stops that are done to a minimum pit stop time are so crucial.
So cars out on circuit, and almost all of them straight out, just waiting for the last 3 or 4 to hit the track. But the drivers we're already seeing out there, the number 2 and 3 United Autosports cars in the hands of Wayne Boyd and Christian England. It is, who is in that car? It is Andreas Lascaratos in the 360 Racing number 5, Ross Kaiser in the system number 6, waiting for the Nielsen Racing cars to appear. Real Team Racing, David Drew, Mikkel Jensen in the Euro International, the championship leading number 11 car, into Europol's 13 and 14 in the hands of Nigel Moore and Sam de Jong, respectively. RLR have put Christian Olsen aboard the number 15 Ligier Ultimate, Mathieu Lehay, and then we've got the M Racing Weimar car in the hands of Jan Erlache, and then the addition to this grid this weekend, the Ace 1 Valour Corsa car in the hands of Alessandro Bressan. Just joining a little later on as the rest of the stream go by, Colin Noble predictably aboard the number 7 Nielsen car, James Littlejohn aboard the sister number 8 car, with a different drive lineup this weekend for that car.
And Alessandro Bressan is, if that's a new name to you, formerly of Lamborghini Trofeo North America fame, and has done some karting in the past as well. Silver rated from Conegliano in Italy, and joining that team then Ace 1 Valour Corsa. Certainly not a new team name,
nope.
Because they've raced in LMP2 in the past in the ELMS, and I remember them racing in GT3s as well, Valour Corsa. So well-known team from Italy, but Ace 1 Valour Corsa is the official entrant in LMP3 this weekend.
So Valour Corsa with plans for this effort. We will see that car for another couple of races in the LMS. We'll see that car in the Asia Le Mans Series later this year into next year. Then a full season plan here with the LMS next year, with a driver squad they're looking to develop and build the ladder. It does give us Valour Corsa in both the LMS and the Michelin Le Mans Cup again, having lost that deal for the Cetilar Racing LMP2 Dallara that's moving on to the FI World Endurance Championship, and of course we'll be here later this week. We're 7 minutes left already for this. There we go, that is the Inter Europol Brains Trust.
Inter Europol, not just a bakery.
Not just a bakery.
Hashtag. Which I learned that for the first time at Le Mans, because I went for a coffee there.
And it's not just a bakery.
That's what it said on the mugs. I had no idea what Inter Europol actually did.
It's a commercial bakery.
I know that now, Graham. 20 or more countries, I think. Hashtag not just a bakery. I like that. So they have expanded to, is it 3 cars they've got now? Certainly got an LMP2
they have
two in LMP3s.
That's correct. They've got 3 cars, and they're expanding their remit all over the place. We of course saw them with their first ever Le Mans starts last month, and that's another team, by the way, that will be taking a multi-car effort into the Asian Le Mans Series during the winter as well. It is getting busier and busier for these teams, isn't it? Lots of opportunities. Mikkel Jensen, meanwhile, is the first man to complete a flying lap atop the times in the number 11 Euro International car, the championship leader in a 1:40.931, 8/10 of a second, clear of Mathieu Lehay. That's a very good lap time indeed from Mikkel Jensen.
The observers around the track are watching keenly to make sure that these lap times are being done within the track limits. We had 1 or 2 deleted earlier on in the day during the Michelin Le Mans Cup session, and cars can very easily run wide on the exit of corners mainly. Brief glimpse there of Alex Brundle.
A previous champion, of course, at LMP3 for United Autosports, and here's Colin Noble aboard the number 7 car. Has he got a championship at some point in the near future? He's certainly ever a contender, isn't he, Colin? And a real battler too. He comes through. He goes second, 0.431 off the current pole position time. Mikkel Jensen then from Colin Noble. Ligier from Norma, 11 from 7 in the front row. Mathieu Lehay and Jan Erlache currently sitting 3rd and 4th.
Damiano Fioravanti leaping over the curbs and going to pole position by almost half a second. 0.428 is now the gap, with two absolute best sector times on that trip around in the number 10 car. As I mentioned, leaping over the curbs out of turn 14. I was slightly concerned something had broken off the car there, but I think it was just a bit of gravel caught around the curbs. But obviously the officials will watch that lap back again to make sure everything was fine. I'm sure it is. Mikkel Jensen going close to within 0.132 of a second now to make it a Norma Ligier front row, but plenty more time still to go.
But Fioravanti has gone a half a second quicker than Jensen in the first sector. This is a heck of a run from Damiano Fioravanti.
It is. In the Oregon team, Norma M30, and his teammates in that car again will be Gustas Grimbergus and Lorenzo Bontempelli. One silver and one, or rather, no, beg your pardon, both bronze drivers.
Yep. Nigel Moore leaps up to fourth quickest. So it's Norma Ligier, Norma Ligier, Norma Ligier for the top six at the moment, with Wayne Boyd popping up in sixth place on this provisional grid at the moment with the number 2 United Autosports car. So it's Oregon team, Damiano Fioravanti, and the number 10 Norma from the 11 Euro International Ligier with Mikkel Jensen. Both those men going quicker again on this lap, by the way. Colin Noble currently third in the number 7 Nielsen Racing Norma. Nigel Moore in the 13 Inter-Europol Competition Ligier. Mathieu Lehay fifth at the moment in the 17 Ultimate Norma. Wayne Boyd in the number 2 United Autosports Ligier sitting sixth.
And Fioravanti goes over the line to do a 1:40.371, so that extends the gap again. It's up to a quarter of a second over Mikkel Jensen, but Jensen can reply almost immediately to go top by 0.164 of a second, 184 of a second in fact. So Ligier fastest now, and that's all down to the championship leaders, Euro International and Mikkel Jensen.
Yeah, and it's shuffling again. Ross Kaiser pops up into fifth place in the order in the number 6 360 Racing Ligier now. So it really is a real mix-up here between the Ligiers and the Normas. Some very quick men indeed aboard these cars. It is 1:40.187 is the mark to beat. We've got just about 2.5 minutes on the clock remaining in another quick-fire qualifying session. Can anybody top Mikkel Jensen? It doesn't look as if it's going to be Nigel Moore. He's pitted the number 13 car. I don't think there's going to be an opportunity for Nigel to get back around and get another flying lap in. Colin Noble looks like he's improving, but I don't think enough to trouble pole position. He'll make a lorry of me, of course, because that's what always happens. Wayne Boyd pops up in fourth, though. It does trouble Colin Noble's time. So it's Jensen from Fioravanti, Colin Noble and Wayne Boyd at the moment, waiting for Colin to complete that lap.
So 2 minutes to go, and as we suspected, that is going to be all she wrote for Inter-Europol competition, because Nigel Moore stepping out of the car, having brought it into the pit lane just a few moments ago. Colin Noble does not find an improvement on that last lap around. Car 8 just crossed the line. That's James Littlejohn in the other Nielsen Racing machine, the number 8 car. That was an improvement for the British driver, though. 1:42.1. To give that car 10th place.
Race control said they're investigating a lap from car 7. I wonder if that was track limits at the end of that lap, because he didn't improve the time. It was a slower final sector. I wonder if Collins had time just off the track a little there. He's going quicker again this time. Ross Kaiser pops up now fourth, so it's a battle in the middle order. Mathieu Lehay goes third and leapfrogs Colin Noble, who isn't improving on this lap. He's going reasonably quickly, but I don't think quickly enough to make a difference. Should get one more lap in, I think, just about Colin Noble.
The 10 and the 11 cars, I reckon, will, this is their final lap now. So yes, the checkered flag will fall somewhere between where James Littlejohn is on the track, just exiting turn 9 now, and the top two on the times that are running more or less nose to tail around the track currently. But this will be the final chance for either Mikkel Jensen or Damiano Fioravanti to improve, and they are both going very rapidly indeed, as is Mathieu Lehay, currently third fastest.
As is Jan Erlache, but both within striking distance of the first couple of the front row, both lapping with first sectors on what will be their last flying laps in 28.8. That's within a tenth of where they need to be. Don't think we're going to see an attack here for the number 10 car on pole position unless we have real dramas. Just 6 seconds left on the clock, so they will cross the line and see the checkered flag. James Littlejohn improves, but will do no better than 10th with that lap. wait to see what occurs here. Where are the dramas going to come from, Johnny Palmer? Is it going to be Jan Lachey?
Mathieu Lehey's one to watch in the red and white car. Here comes out of the final corner Damiano Fioravanti. Is this going to be improvement for the Italian, first of all? No. So that car will stay second. Mikkel Jensen quickly over the line as well, and no improvement to be found there. In fact, I think Jensen's pitted. So the top two are going to be locked into position. It's going to be all about third and downwards. Can they go faster?
Yeah, Mathieu Lehey has gone quicker, but does not improve his position. He just shaves a tenth and a half from that. Lachey goes to fourth. That is an improvement, and shuffles Colin Noble down a further position to fifth on the grid. So it's Mikkel Jensen, still yet to see the checkered flag in the number 11 car. Did he pit? Has he gone straight to Parc Fermé and not across the line? He stopped, it says here.
Okay, interesting. Maybe he didn't quite make the pit lane. He was certainly slowing through the final few corners, and I tracked him as far as the chicane, as in he'd exited turns 14 and 15, but then started to slow up at 16. So maybe a drama within touching distance of the pit lane, but Louise Beckett reporting she can't see that the number 11 car in the pits. The crucial thing is he's already got pole position, so it's not overly concerning that the car's not made it back, apart from the post-scrutineering checks, that the post-session checks that it may have to have done. Can't see the car parked at turn 16, I have to say.
I think he's come down pit. I wonder if he's turned immediately right and not made the full pit lane before he's crossed that pit entry line.
Not made the loop.
Either way, at the moment,
scrutineering.
at the flag, Mikkel Jensen it is that's got the pole position in the number 11 Euro International car. Championship leaders and the winners from the back of the grid, remember, at Monza last time out. 140.187. 0.184 an advantage over Damiano Fioravanti in the number 10 Oregon team Norma. It's Mathieu Lehey in the ultimate car, the number 17 Norma, that is third on the grid, 0.438 off the pole position time, with Jan Lachey in the last minute attempt to get to pole position. Comes down the pit lane now in the number 19 M Racing car. He's something like just under 9 tenths off the pole position time ahead of Colin Noble, who seemed to struggle right at the end there to find the pace of the number 7 Nielsen Racing Norma. Wayne Boyd, the quicker of the two United cars, sixth on the grid. And Ross Kaiser for 360 Racing, Nigel Moore for Inter-Europol competition, David Drew in the real team number 9 car, and completing the top 10 in that order, James Littlejohn in the second Nielsen car. James Winslow for 360 Racing, Sandra Bressan for the Ace 1 for Robert Corset squad, Christian England for United Autosports, Christian Olsen for RRM Sports, and Sam de Jong for the 14 Inter-Europol competition complete the order in that quick fire LMP3 qualifying session. First at the Circuit de Catalunya for the LMP3 class in the European Le Mans Series.
And it's yet another different qualifying car on pole position as well, because the 11 car's never done it before this season. We've had poles for the 10 Oregon team Norma, for the number 19 M Racing Norma, but this is also a first for the Ligier as well. So congratulations to Mikkel Jensen and to his teammate, and we'll be grabbing a word with either of those two guys, I'm sure, very shortly indeed. But they lead the championship already, so 43 points to their name, and that will further back up their championship advantage, because it will now stretch to another point. So 11 points will be the advantage for Jens Pettersson and Mikkel Jensen now over Martin Hipper and Nigel Moore for Inter-Europol competition. That's the 19 car that has taken a pole position already at Monza 2 months ago, and one of the cars that was the last into the pit lane, James Littlejohn. But confirmation of the times, a first pole of the year for your international, 140.187. After Mikkel Jensen posted that time, he was 0.184 of a second quicker than Damiano Fioravanti for Oregon. Ultimate qualifying in third position, Mathieu Lehey ahead of Jan Lachey, who set that time late on for M Racing. Nielsen Racing will start from fifth position for Colin Noble, and Wayne Boyd from sixth for the United Autosports squad, their number 2 Ligier. And a little further down the charts, the 60 cars we know taking pole position in the GTE category from the 55 Spirit of Race Ferraris. To make it 4 Ferraris indeed in the top 4 in GTE, 51 and 66 qualify on the second row in the GTE category.
Jan Lachey with the man I'm sure he calls Uncle Ivan. as he is indeed his uncle. But nice, neat separation, by the way, between the classes there. Just a tiny margin between the slowest of the LMP3 cars in qualifying and the quickest of the GT3s. Next up, fasten your safety belts. It's going to be the 18 Gibson engined LMP2s. And this is going to be spectacular. Before that, though, it's time to go back down to the pit lane. And Louise Beckett has with her the non-driving pole position setter Jens Pettersson from the Euro International squad.
Well, as the number 11 car goes into scrutineering, Jens Pettersson, it's a great result for you. Great way to start this weekend.
Yeah, it is. I'm probably not the right person for the interview because all the credit goes to my teammate and the team itself. But we are very happy because we got one extra point now. It's always nice to be on the front row, but as we saw at Monza, it's a long race, so it's not always important to be on the front row, but we are happy to start there.
First time back here for 10 years, back in Barcelona for ELMS. How is the circuit?
Yeah, it's a nice one. I especially liked it last night when we were driving in the night. It was really, exciting.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks, bye.
Interesting that it's two duos at the top of the championship at the moment, though. Pettersson, who've just heard from, and Mikkel Jensen from Martin Hipper and Nigel Moore. And then the first trio of drivers in third position in the championship hunt, Jean-Baptiste Lehay, Mathieu Lehay, the brothers, and François Herriot for Ultimate, who have qualified well as well. Third position for those guys of France. So we turn our attentions now to LMP2s and the busiest session of the day for this category. 18 cars, all being well, will flood out onto the circuit, and this a chance then to maybe even beat some times that have been set at this place for the last 10 years. Not sure we're going to get down to LMP1 pace in the era of 2009, but certainly should be much faster than the LMP2s that were in that race, which was the opening round of the Le Mans series, as it was called in those days. I think there were just 5 races that year, starting off in Spain. The Aurus is already out on pit lane, by the way, the Aurus 01, which is basically an Orica, people. Orica 07 for G-Drive Racing. And this, the high-class racing machine, has it always had the flag of Catalan on the dorsal fin?
No,
I quite like that as an addition.
That looked great. I have to say, I hadn't noticed that when looking down the pit lane yesterday. High-class racing, by the way, Danish flag, but actually based here at the circuit.
Oh, right.
So based just behind the grandstand, you can see on the left-hand side of the cars when we get that shot. It's their unit there, and that's where they will be managing, behind that grandstand, managing their efforts both in the European Le Mans Series and in the World Endurance Championship. They entered that championship for the first time this year, and in the Asia Le Mans Series as well. So we'll become part of an exclusive club that will actually have LMP2 cars in all 3 of the major ACO organised championships. The 32 car from United Autosports, that is Alex Brundle.
He'll be sharing with Ryan Cullen and Willow in come the race, but yes, Baby Brundle in for the qualifying duties. BHK Motorsport is the British flagged number 35 Orica. Francesco Draconi, Sergio Campana and Gary Finley. It'll be Campana, I would imagine, doing the qualifying there.
Gary Finley, of course, an addition for this race in the BHK car. Another new addition to what is a packed LMP2 field this year, stepping up from LMP3 last year. The cars start to make their way down towards pit exit, where
So I'm just checking actually whether Gary Finley, yes, he has raced LMP2s in the past, did a race for G-Drive Racing in 2018, so that was the Silverstone race that we saw Gary, the man from Stranraer, do, and then 2016 for Murphy Prototype. So has got some LMP2 experience. He's also raced LMP3s in the ELMS for Graph Racing back in 2015.
For LMP2s, we are at 20 seconds to open pit exit.
So just a handful of seconds before we get going with this 10-minute session. A couple of minutes really to do your outlap, and then as many laps as you can bang in, which might be 5, could even be 6 if you manage to skip across the line with a couple of seconds to go before the checkered flag comes out. If you start a lap before the checkered flag is shown, then it will count in true mastermind fashion. So here come all the cars then. The first of the Ligiers will be the United Autosports machine. That's the 22 car, if not the 32. And the 34 Inter Europol competition machine being held on pit road. I'm reminded by seeing the Michelin tyres on this car that we also have a tyre battle in this course as well. Dunlop versus Michelin, and it remains to be seen who's got the stronger tyre this weekend.
Now, I'm not sure we're going to see him in this session, but another addition to the grid here aboard that 34 car. Adrien Tombe, a man with a famous surname, son of Patrick Tombe, Formula 1 driver of old, and Adrien himself with DTM experience amongst the entries on his CV, 28-year-old. Very nice chap he is too. So out they go, and I think this one's going to be close as well, Johnny Palmer.
I see no reason why it should not be, and it's interesting, isn't it, to see one or two philosophies from the teams to say, okay, let's just hold back, even though it's a very quick fire session. Better actually to wait for some gaps in the traffic. Dragon Street number 21 car only just being released now, in fact. But the car at the head of the order that managed to beat everybody else out onto the track is the 28 G-Drive car, 28 E-Deck Sport car I should say, with G-Drive not very far behind. I make it 5th on the road, but the 28 of Paul Chatat currently heading through the chicane at turns 14 and 15, and now into the very fast turn 16 right-hander that brings you back onto the main straight. Just being sent from the pit lane now is the 43 car with Arjun Maini at the wheel of the RLRM Sport machine, fresh from 4 recent GP2 races that he did with Campos Racing at the Red Bull Ring and Silverstone. So good to have Arjun Maini back in high-level single-seater racing, but he can also hurl a 2-seater prototype around Barcelona very rapidly too.
And he's thoroughly enjoying his time in sports cars. Have had time to spend a couple of... Oh, we got off early on in the session for the number 30 car. That's the Duquette Engineering car in the hands of Nico Jamin. It's a red flag immediately. So that's with 7.5 minutes of the session remaining. The clock has stopped. Nico Jamin brings out the red flag. Now, was that... Did he do that by himself? Or was there... What's happened here? Into turn 1.
There's nobody else around.
Oh, and it just turned on him.
Just snaps to the right, and all of a sudden he's being hurled at turn 1 backwards pretty much. Amazingly, the gravel trap did a very good job there. It's not the deepest of gravel traps. There is a tyre wall there which is about 3 or 4 tyres deep too, but amazingly Jamin didn't connect with that. The gravel arrested the speed supremely well.
That red flag came before any cars had actually completed a flying lap. That's going to cramp their style and their strategy without a shadow of a doubt. So trouble then early on in the session for the number 30 car, Nico Jamin, and that's a car that's been in the mix throughout the season. Looks to be knocking on the door of success with Duquette Engineering, but not like that.
Now, technically speaking, we're not going to lose any time here because the clock has been stopped. 7 minutes and 39 seconds it reads. However, everyone's going to go back to the pits and therefore going to have to do another outlap, which is the best part of 2 minutes gone again. A good lap time around here is going to be in the 1 minute 35 sort of area, I think. 134, 135. And
134s we've seen in free practice. We'll see this again, by the way. It happens, it is a brake grab or something. It's weird. That's a weird place for that to happen.
Yeah.
But well, the safety features of the track did their job, didn't they? Kept him out of that tyre barrier.
Yes, certainly so. And Nicolas Jamin will be great for that. But a highly unusual mistake for the Rouen-born Frenchman, and 23 years old. He's gold graded and normally rapid in these prototypes. So whether something snapped on the car, i.e. broke, failed, we will have to find out after the session. But the rest of the cars around the track are having to return to the pit lane, but at a much, much reduced speed. I mean, this is full course yellow sort of speed. You probably have to do about 30 or 40 Ks to make sure that you return safely. Marshals are on track, but they're all at turn 1, getting the 30 car back to hard standing. And I reckon, as long as the 30 car is okay to continue, it will be permitted to by the officials. The downside for everybody else is that it may well spill a load of stones now down at turn 1 and turn 2. The Michelin tyres are pretty much done, so they will have to be switched, but there are lots of little inlets and steering vanes on these cars where gravel can hide, and of course it all rattles out onto the circuit just as soon as the car starts to work its way around to turn 3 and 4, so drivers will need to be mindful of that. The number 45 Carlin Dallara appears on pit road, and installed in that car to do the qualifying, Harry Tinknell, who shares with Jack Manchester and Ben Barnicoat once again this weekend for Trevor Carlin's outfit.
Well, we're soon going to see whether or not this fire is still in the belly of that car. Just an error. Lots of gravel in the vehicle. Yes.
Well, Chamat's doing a good job because he's off
the racing
road.
line, absolutely.
Yeah, and there is a slightly different route that can be put into place depending on what iteration of the track is used. It's almost like there's an outside pit lane there.
Yeah,
but
it'll sound horrible.
It will do.
Car. There's still gravel pouring out the side pods of that car.
And the windscreen wiper is fully horizontal.
Still losing stones. Tell your driver to keep out of the racing line. Tell him to pick up the speed to come back into the pits. He may go over the 80 kilometers an hour. He may go, car 30 may go over the 80 kilometers an hour.
And that is a race director looking to get this back underway as rapidly as possible.
Yeah, and also hoping to get the stones loose, I think, from that car as well. But yes, wanting the car to return to the pits as quickly as possible. So just before we go back to the session, let's grab this opportunity to hear from Pierre Ragg, who's in the pits with Lou.
Yes, Pierre Ragg and all of the team have seen the pictures, and I know that Nico is speaking to you over team radio. So what do you think has happened at that point?
Hard to know for this moment, but Nico say he locked the rear tires and he lost the car in the first corner, so maybe not all was warm very well, and but we don't touch the wall and we can continue the quali, so that's the most important thing.
Sure is. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
A former European Le Mans Series champion, Pierre Ragg, in 2013 when he won with Cinitec Alpine, now with Duquesne Engineering though.
And double duty this coming season as well. He'll be stepping up with Cinitec Alpine again for the full WEC. But it did look a bit of an odd one, that one, didn't it?
Yes. Although the fact that the car is continuing around and is likely to rejoin the session, that really does suggest it was more of an error from Nicolas Jamat, because nothing appears to be awry with the car. So a rare moment, note this down in your diary if indeed that is the case. This time the pit road race is won by car 34, because Inter Europol competition are at the front of the queue and arguably in the best position. Paul-Luc Chatin managed that a moment or two ago, but the green flag is now waved and everyone starts to get going, and already we're down to 7.5 minutes of time left in this session with 0 time set so far, no hanging around.
There will be some gravel around, although Pierre Chamat did a good job of keeping that away from the racing line, but I'm sure there'll be the odd lack of gravel on the circuit. Nothing much is going to sort of freneticism we're going to see in the next 7 or 8 minutes with these cars on track and now looking to get as quick a marker down as they possibly can. On board with the 39 Graf car. And that car in the hands of Jonathan Hershey. The stewards, by the way, for crossing the white line at pit exit on his first time out of the pits. They've been careful not to do it again. He makes his way by the 43 RLRM Sport car of Roger Miney. What is the mark going to be? As we said, 134s we've seen in free practice. The mark from 2009, by the way, for the LMP1 car, rather oddly with a Cytec engine in the back, the grandfather, if you like, of the current Gibson. 132.4, 131.8 the year before when the Peugeot was here. 134s was the mark from both of the qualifying to the free practice sessions yesterday.
And you would think, now that these cars are on very a small amount of fuel in the tank. You would think it's certainly possible to go quicker than we've seen in free practice. Lots of opposite lot required there from Jonathan Hershey as he scrambles for grip coming out of turns 13 and 14 through the long right-hander at 15 and across the line. So he's about to start a fast lap now for car 39, the Graf machine.
39 and 43.34, the first three onto those quick laps. We'll see what the marks are going to come and how quickly they'll come, whether or not we see that lap time progression or whether or not it's going to be one and done for some of these teams. I doubt it. The other advantage of this qualifying session is rather less traffic. It's 41 cars for the European Le Mans Series here. That makes for a busy Circuit de Catalunya.
It's Joop van Uitert, Norman Nato and Roman Rusinov, by the way, who topped the championship by just 2 points after a win last time out at Monza. They've had a pole position as well at Paul Ricard. It's just the result they're paying for a little bit was the 4th position that they got at Paul Ricard, but nevertheless that was pretty good. 38 points their tally so far from Memo Rojas, Paul Lafargue and Paul-Luc Chatin, who drive the 28 EDEX Sport car.
And of course, Norman Nato will lose the championship lead because he's not in that 26 car. Jean-Eric Verne, after missing the first 2 races with other commitments, will be stepping in this time. He's actually the last man on pit lane. Just hearing from Lou Beckett down the pit lane, the 24 Panis Bartes car has come in for a change of tyres very early on in this session. Still waiting for the first flying laps to come. Just 4 minutes left in the session and not a single flying lap. Actually, as I say that, Yannick Kloss, local driver of course, pops round in a 1:35.259, 1:33 in the first lap we've seen in the 33s this weekend. Comes to Jonathan Hershey. He tops the times from Arjun Maini, 1:33.999 from the Indian driver in the RRM Sport car. He sits second as the lap times tick through, but some quick men still to come.
Yeah, so Hershey for Graf, Maini for RLR. Harry Tinknell slots into 3rd position now for Carlin in the number 45 car. Ben Hanley's 4th fastest for Dragon Speed, number 21. And then Alex Brundle is 5th quickest in the 32 car. But what about the freshly crowned Formula E champion, Jean-Eric Verne, who's very late to the party indeed? Somehow you just feel that doesn't really matter. That won't really matter for the Frenchman. Car 26 about to light the blue touch paper.
Nico Lapierre on a flyer as well. He's approaching the line in the 37 Cool Racing car. Goes to the top. It's a 1:33.358, half a second up on Jonathan Hershey's best. So the 37 Cool Racing Orica from the Graf Orica, RRM Sports Orica, then Harry Tinknell in the 45 Colin Dallara. Big slide there from Lapierre as well on his way to that provisional pole setting time.
Paul-Luc Chatin about to come through the final corner and cross the line and to pole position by half a second. Nearly 6/10 in fact. It's a 1:32.765 for Paul-Luc Chatin. Tremendous effort, car 28.
That would have been good enough for second on the grid 10 years ago and ahead of the Lola Aston Martin, astonishingly. The number of scalps that these LMP2 cars are taking in history of sports car racing is quite astonishing. These are very rapid cars indeed, and Chatin is going quicker this time around, as is Lapierre. There's some quick time still to come in the closing couple of minutes of this session.
Again, Chatin, a former ELMS champion back in 2014. He managed to win the Le Mans Prototype Challenge, part of the championship in 2013 as well, and has been a man to watch ever since those days, really. Gold graded, 27 years old from France, and can anyone beat the time he's just set? A 1:32.7. Well, plenty are out there to try and do that with still 1 3/4 minutes to go. Jean-Eric Verne's early effort we haven't yet seen, but he's on a flying lap now and just heading into the final sector. Dramas though for the number not sure, 37.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's the pole position, and it was the pole position car. Nico Lapierre had set 2 quicker times. He said he'd actually it slid through the final turn, does it again and takes just a little bit too much of a liberty. Is that going to cramp the style of anybody else?
Clipping a bollard as well, which went skating its way towards the pit lane entry there, so that will have to be retrieved a little later by one of the brave marshals in that part of the circuit. The 32 at Ligier from United Autosports just working its way through, but Nicolas Lapierre now still being shown as stopped on the circuit, but I think his car has moved from that scene. I can't see any yellow flags being displayed on the route into 16.
He's gone down pit lane, so that will be his effort done. It will not be pole position for Cool Racing. Arjun Maini pops up again into third place with the fastest third sector of the session. It was another 132.7 by the way from Chatan. Amazing consistency there, 132.76 to 132.78 on the following lap. But he will have encountered, I think, just the end of Lapierre's incidents. So it's Chatan from Lapierre, from Maini, from Hershey, Edex Sports from Cool Racing, RRM Sports, and Graf Orica 1, 2, 3, 4. Where Jean-Eric Verne pops in, 8th only at the moment for Jean-Eric Verne. Harry Tinkler's pitted aboard the Carling car, will do no better than 7th. At the moment it's 6 Oricas to the 4. Before the first of the non-Oricas, that's the Dallara. The checkered flag is shown. Who's got more to give? Well, Arjun Maini might. He improves his first sector time. Jean-Eric Verne is going quicker and significantly quicker. Certainly top 4 kind of pace at the moment from Jean-Eric Verne. Just how far into the top 4 we're going to know in just a few seconds time. Here comes the 26 hours, Johnny.
Yeah, over the line then goes Verne to third position. So left it very late indeed, but the Aris 01 back up to third. Nicolas Lapierre has been released for an out lap, but he's not going to make it round to do a quick lap. And Jean-Eric Verne stopping right at the end of the start-finish line there, crawling to a halt. So what is the problem there? All of a sudden it seems like there's no power. And the car was late to the session anyway. Let's just see whether there's going to be any more changes in the top few positions. Arjun Maini sees the checkered flag and will stay in 4th position. Paul-Luc Chatan likewise, no improvement for the Frenchman. And the Duquesne engineering car of Nicolas Jamin crosses the line, 6th position. That's pretty good considering the Frenchman only a few minutes ago was in the gravel at turn 1. What happened here though, Graham?
Very strange.
The car, number 26, the Aris 01 of Jean-Eric Verne, posting a good time. 3rd position, that's a 133.6, but then almost immediately as it crossed the line, conked out, no forward locomotion at all, and the car is parked at the end of the start-finish straight now with 2 wheels on the grass.
Well, 2 theories. Theory number 1 is that car was late to the session. Is it carrying a minor problem?
Yep.
Theory 2 is, did they really short fuel that car?
It's possible, yeah, indeed. So it didn't even have enough fuel in to make it home after a couple of quick laps. Well, that's high drama. I think possibly the first one of your scenarios is the more likely. And every credit therefore to Jean-Eric Verne for just muscling, for wrestling a good time out of it before it virtually expired. The problem, of course, in this format for this weekend is they haven't got overnight to rectify it. We're racing tonight at 6:30.
Well, that was a qualifying session utterly dominated by the Oricas. The top 7 cars in the order: Edex Sports 28, the Cool Racing 37, the 26 Aris badged but Orica chassis, of course, G-Drive racing car, RRM Sports 43, the 39 Graf, the 30 Duquesne, and the 21 Dragon Speed top 7 before we get to the Carlin Dallara. Well, before we get to talk about the rest of the order, we're going to be going down to Lou Beckett, who's got Paul-Luc Chatan, our pole's position setter, down in pit lane.
This is going to be a very quick word because Paul-Luc Chatan has to go back down to scrutineering. Well done, great performance from you.
Thank you. No, I'm really happy for the team. Since the beginning of the year, we were already fighting for pole position, but we missed it always for 1/10 or 100. So now we got it, and it's good. It's 1 point for the championship. So we are now at 1 point from J-Drive, which are the leader. And it's good to start the race from pole. So I'm happy for the team. Team did an incredible job, and now we have to focus on the race tonight.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll let Paul-Luc Chatan scamper away to post-session checks and scrutineering, but as he says, that gap now between the top 2 down to just a single point because Edex Sport go to 37 and the championship leaders 26, G-Drive Racing on 38 points, but more worryingly for them, their car coming to a halt at the end of the main straight right after qualifying. A first pole of the year for Edex Sport by over half a second from Cool Racing Nicolas Lapierre, who had his own dramas in that session, a spin late on in the lap. G-Drive do get 3rd position ahead of the RLRM Sport car, expertly driven by Arjun Maini. In 5th position, the 39 Graf car from Duquesne Engineering, and then onward beyond the top 10 BHK Motorsport will start 11th ahead of the 2 United Autosports Ligiers. They may be pretty disappointed with that qualifying session. Alex Brundle just ahead of Philippe Albuquerque. In LMP3, we've spoken about what a great session that was and how close it was. A reminder that in GTE, we got Kessel Racing on pole position as well, but it's the first pole of the year for Euro International in the LMP3 category. They are the championship leaders. Remember, the race is later on today at 6:30 local time. Join us for the build-up at around 6 o'clock. We'll see you then. From Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer, bye-bye for now.